Do you know much about filters at all?
I have researched...
The sort of filters that are needed to take or remove fluoridation?
Well, first of all, boiling will only concentrate the amount of fluoride in the water. It's extremely hard to get rid of out of water. Most carbon filters, carbon filters particularly is what most people use, won't remove it.
You're going to be looking at full-on 4 or 5 stage filters, and to really do a good job of it you need a commercial filtration system like a reverse osmosis, but that'll take it out, the full big commercial ones, but like who's got 10 to 20 grand plus to buy one, plus environmentally it's a disaster. Because 50% of the water is wasted, and that has got all the heavy metals and the fluoride, all the chemicals that are part of the fluoride mixture, they get taken out and it goes back into the ground. So you're polluting your own property with chemicals that are toxic. I can't afford a filtration system, and as far as I'm concerned, the government should be buying me one. But will they? No, because fluoride doesn't make you sick according to them.
Yeah, and like you say, so many people can't either afford it or don't have the space for a tank. Many people couldn't afford to buy the amount of bottled water you would need for all of your cooking and even showering. Some people get quite harmed by showering in fluoridated water. Sensitive people get prickly rashes and absorb that water. Bathing in it, you absorb a lot of fluoride from bathing in a warm fluoride bath. No, it's ridiculous to think that people who need to escape fluoride can go and organise their own water supply. We all pay our water rates for a proper clean water supply, and in fluoridated towns we're not getting it.
So even if you avoid fluoridated tap water, how do you avoid products that may have been processed with fluoridated water?
You can't avoid it. That's the simple fact, you can't avoid it. Like I've had people say, oh well, yeah, if you don't want to drink it, get a tank. It's not that simple. You can reduce a little bit your consumption by drinking, either tank water or cask water. But still, unless you've got massive amount of money to get a whole house filter on your home, you're showering in it, you're washing your babies in it, all your gardens hosed with it, all your plants, your vegetables, all the fruit and food you buy is all manufactured with tap water.
I have particular concerns in South Australia, and especially in Adelaide, of where this fluoridated chemical waste goes, because only 5% of that 700 tonnes ends up in people's bodies. The rest is excreted and flushed down our drains, so 95% at least of this 700 tonnes goes to our sewerage plants. Now the big issue is, okay, that goes to sea and they've managed to sanitise the waste and get away with it and get it out of the reaches of the EPA. What I am concerned about is the thousands upon thousands of litres of this sewerage waste that goes through treatment plants and ends up in the Virginia fruit and vegetable area. If this fluoridated waste containing the arsenic, the uranium, the beryllium, the cadmium and other products, other heavy metals, ends up in being a treated wastewater going to produce Adelaide's vegetables, I have concerns that there may be health implications from that, and I am going to in the future investigate that issue.
And it's been proven that it's harmful to fish. In fact, I believe it will stop a salmon run. I mean, you put it into the water supplies, so then it gets back into the rivers, doesn't it? Because the stuff is released into the rivers. And it's really bad for fish. So if it's bad for fish, it's obviously an environmental toxin. And it's not supposed to be put into rivers. So they dilute it with our water supplies. It's a way of laundering a poison.
Dr. Spittle has condensed the medical literature that reported on side effects from many doctors, dentists and scientists doing government work and their own clinical observations, and he's listed around about 24 different common symptoms of fluoride toxicity. And that's really important because most doctors and dentists are informed it's completely safe. And this is difficult to focus on just, is fluoride causing the skin rash? Is fluoride causing the abdominal pain? Is it causing the muscle fatigue? Because I can go on for 20 or so different common symptoms, and this is where they normally get treated with anti-inflammatories, cortisone for the skin rash, but doctors and dentists are not generally aware of what side effects to look for. Dr. Spittle's work is critical for health practitioners who are dealing with the public who may be getting affected by fluoride to become clinically aware of what they should be looking for. And Dr. Spittle's work also shows the testing procedures of how to avoid the exposure to the fluoride and then watch to see a change in symptoms. So clinically it's very, very relevant.
There's labourers and sports people who have many times the risk, the pathology, the toxicology comes in from 0.7 to 2.3 parts per million. So if you're taking 0.9 parts per million, if people have 2 or 3 times, they're an enormous risk, and there are a lot of them. There's certain teas and wines and soft drinks and juices and raisins, potatoes and cheese and grapes, foods which concentrate this and have done so in America. So it's in the environment so much, they need to have a look at what people are getting. And then you have the issue of people who can't excrete it. And then as well, we said at the end, there's this enormous problem of the hypersensitive people. There's a lot written about at the end of the spectrum, there are 7 or 8 or 9 or 10% of people, well, there's going to be 1% of people allergic to fluoride. So in this state, there'll be 42,000 people allergic to fluoride getting no medical help whatsoever because the doctors and dentists don't believe in it. Who's going to tell them? So if their rash gets better or they're worse or their migraine gets worse or their gut symptoms get worse, who's going to tell them? And it's often the more vulnerable and sick people.
Originally I was in Bacchus Marsh when they put fluoride in the industry, and I'm here to simply warn the community and help other people understand what is going on around them. Initially, when they put fluoride in the water, I was sold a bill of goods that was not true, false, and as a consequence, the longer I lived, the more I suffered. I developed all sorts of heinous diseases, bone density problems, thyroid problems, liver, kidney damage, diabetes, without proper diagnosis and without proper treatment. I found that it was a waste of time going to the medical profession for help.
Fluoride is documented as causing renal damage, and Brian was one of the first people in Victoria to be exposed to fluoridation in the water. It's hard to isolate exact causes of organ damage, but his shows also associated gastrointestinal impairments, so it's reasonable to think that fluoride played a role in it.
Probably about 25 years ago, I read an article on water fluoridation and I very quickly realised what a con it was. It didn't work. It's a poison that's being put in our water supply, and it harms people. And I vowed there and then when I read this article that, you know, if it ever happened to our water supply, I'd walk the streets. I didn't want that going into my family's drinking water. About that time, unbeknownst to me, my sister was living in Townsville, and for about 4 years, and as soon as she got to Townsville, she had massive problems with dermatitis. She was going to uni. She would come back here every university holidays. and her dermatitis would clear up. She'd go back there, it'd break out again, and it was really painful and distressing to her. We would send her up all these various creams and potions and things, and nothing helped. She'd go to dermatologists, nothing would help. Just before she was about to leave Townsville to come back to Brisbane, this doctor said to her that she might have a fluoride allergy. Well, she didn't even realise that Townsville's water was fluoridated, and that sort of basically confirmed my, opinion that we do not want this in our water.
So perhaps you could expand a little bit on the financial risks that fluoride has actually caused you to take.
Well, for starters, I've had to get in large amounts of drinking water. There's actually 9 in my house all up, in a very small house. You don't actually realise how much water you actually use just in everyday living. At one stage I was actually trying to wash the clothes and bathe the children in proper drinking water. But it's just too expensive. I'm on a carer's pension, we struggle. We just hold the fort money-wise, and this is a massive burden financially on me. I've had to get a small tank in, which we get water off our roof, but with the amount of companies around Geelong spewing toxic waste into our airshed, I don't even know how safe that is, and I've got no way of testing it. So we've had to go back to washing our clothes and bathing our children in a carcinogenic soup that our government tells us is good for us, that formerly used to have to be dumped at toxic waste sites.
It was every time I went to Melbourne and had a cup of tea, and either the vegetables were boiled in the water, it just swelled my face and lips and tongue and throat every time.
You don't go out?
No.
We don't go. No, we go. I can, but Olive can't. So it restricts me for where I can go because I like to do things with my wife. So if we buy anything at all, it's usually say fish and chips. It doesn't not involve water, but anything involves being cooked in fluoride water is a no-no.
So that's a very restrictive lifestyle because of the fluoride poisoning.